supply enough Japanese language teams to support every division fighting in the Pacific. As a result, each succeeding class was larger than the one before it, with a curriculum ever more focused and specialized. By spring 1946, the MISLS had produced nearly 6,000 graduates. The war planners in Japan believed their language so complex that few Westerners would fully understand it. As a result, many Japanese military communications were sent in the open without being coded. Trained Nishii linguists in the field were able to rapidly translate these messages and other captured documents and provide U.S. commanders with timely intelligence about enemy defenses and plans, the condition and morale of its troops, and technical specifications of their weapons, all of which were put to use in winning battles and saving American lives. The story of the Japanese American soldiers who served in the Pacific Theater is one of action, pride, courage, and sacrifice. That U.S. combat units fighting throughout the Pacific had the ability to understand the enemy's language and read their communications was among the best-kept secrets of the war. In the decades that followed, a veil of secrecy stayed in place over matters pertaining to military intelligence. Even when the World War II records started to be declassified decades later, much of this story remained untouched in dusty storage bins at national archives. The buried and scattered records of their service were often incomplete or not easily found. The fact that their small intelligence teams were attached to larger units made finding detailed accounts of their wartime activities all the more challenging. Astonishingly, no roster of the Japanese American soldiers who served in the Pacific was ever compiled by the Army. For decades, there were no reunions of the MIS Nishii. They had gone through the war without having much contact with others like themselves, except for the few men on their own team. After the war, they were disinclined to join veterans organizations, as their race and ancestry made them unwelcome in the usual circles of military fraternal groups. Some local posts of the Veterans of Foreign Wars prohibited Japanese Americans from joining. Many Nishii veterans, satisfied with having done their duty and proven their loyalty to America, did not speak openly of their wartime experiences for years, even to their families. Bridge to the Sun tells this dramatic, poignant, and inspirational story at a pivotal time in this country's history. Japanese Americans, with ancestral ties to a nation with which we were at war and distrusted for that reason, became huge assets to the U.S. military because they knew the enemy better than anyone and were highly motivated to defeat them. In an America that too often prejudges people based on race and ethnicity, their timeless message of courage and patriotism should not be forgotten. Bruce Henderson, Menlo Park, California. Prologue. Tokyo Bay, September 2nd, 1945. The sky was dull gray with low-hanging clouds over the battleship on which the war that began with the attack on Pearl Harbor more than 1,000 days before was to now end with Japan's formal surrender. The USS Missouri's trio of 16-inch guns mounted in forward turret number 2 had hurled 1-ton armor-piercing projectiles in bombardments of Iwo Jima and Okinawa months earlier, and more recently at the Japanese homeland. But now the 66-foot-long barrels were pointed straight up to provide headroom on the veranda deck, where some of the highest-ranked military leaders of the victorious Allied nations were standing in designated spots. The teak deck shone with the colors of red-striped Russians, beribboned British, olive-drab Chinese, and khaki-clad American admirals and generals. In the center of the narrow space was a long, collapsible table borrowed at the last minute from the crew's mess and covered with a coffee-stained green cloth from the officers' wardroom, stand-ins for a showy mahogany table, a gift from the British Navy for the momentous occasion that proved too small to spread out the surrender documents for signing. A straight-back chair had been placed at either side of the table. In the superstructure rising high above, every level and catwalk was filled with hundreds of cheering, white-capped sailors gawking at the scene below as the ship's band played a rousing rendition of the Navy march song, Anchors Aweigh. Standing 30